And I can take us much further than we've been before. Thanks.
Thanks, Ross, for your kind invitation, and also thanks, Professor Li Gang, and also thanks, Professor Li Xiao, for invitations and all these years, and China programming, and you guys, and provide this platform and for intellectual discussions, and certainly will help quite the improvement of this kind of knowledge. And then Ross, and they also kind of living legends, and really inspired us to make progress professionally and also personally trying to be the good man. Yeah, it's really you and another person is Professor Peter Dresser. Yeah, they are really something which I guess all in our mind, we also want to be yeah, as good as you are if possible. And I have been here talking many times about energy and the climate issues, and today I'm going to speak about this electric vehicle, because this kind of issue, which you know, is a heavy debate in China and also abroad, and also the one that appears in the media. And a lot of the misunderstanding there. So I like to this opportunity is to give you some perspective. You might be don't agree with me, and also couldn't agree with the stories, but at least make you understand why this the issue, what is the key point from China's side, what is the key point in the European side, and then you're understanding this kind of better. Yeah, this is what I'm going to. And as I said, and yes, we have this so-called 3 new items, and you know, is these are probably one of the shining point of Chinese economics, and they really is increasing rapidly, and all these 3 items, and in terms of the values, they already more than 1 trillion Chinese yuan as the contribution to the net trade, and account for 80%. And if you look at the quantitative term, and last year country produced 9.5 million electrical cars, and every 4 car export from China to abroad, 1 is electrical cars. So this is very, very huge. 60% of global PV production, which are China made. And so then the question come out, what's the main reasons? You hear a lot of the debate on the one hand, and on the Western countries, and they say, oh, it's really subsidies. And you do see a number of studies from the US, from EU, from OECDs, either look at the total of the GDP, either as a look at the specifically companies, and in the indicator of the percentage GDP, in the indicator of the percentage of revenues, and you do find, at least this study indicated that probably 2 or 3 times EU average, probably even come to company side, could be even 9 times of OECD average. So this at least the study by the Western scholars and also the Western organizations. But on the other hand, you from a Chinese government side, they don't agree with that. They said we don't much substance. Objectively speaking, I would say somewhere in between. Is the China successful for the PV is because a bunch of factors work together, and certainly we have a very long term, you know, the early in the industrial layout and long-term industrial policy guide, and then have the long-term support, so that will activate the user demand, and that is constantly investment, not on R&D investment, not from government, also the R&D, and so that will upgrade technologies and also batteries. And then country have a huge market, so this will create very big scale effect. Now more than 200 companies competing to further bring down the cost and further strengthen the scale effect, and push the cost down and make it very competitive. And also country have the advantage over whole value chain from upstream to the downstream, plus and we have a rich pool of the engineers and technical workers. Yeah, so that's I guess it's probably, you know, the more objective things. Because this one, then last year we produced 95 million electrical cars, and of course among all this kind of car produced 1.2 million export. Basically, is somewhere 85% produced China and also sold in China. Only about 50% are exported. And among the exported cars, and then this part actually reached the question. This is a number from the EU think tank. You do find all these cars from export from China to abroad. Most of them actually is either foreign brand like Tesla, either a joint brand like BMW, and purely Chinese brand like BRD. And a long time only account about 1%. By end of 2020, Chinese brand only 4%. Until last year, probably only 7-8%. So basically, all Chinese cars through the Europe probably account 20% of the electric car on the trade, and the Chinese brand only about 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, something like, until the story become more get the EU attention. And the car industry basically is a strict industry. Every country are very concerned, and the EU and the United States notice they're trying to build their own capacities, and in the meantime, they also want to buy time for themselves, so they use a kind of elevate this industry to the strategic industries. So that is, they might be introduce some trade and regulations trying to provide more protection for them. And you probably heard in the US, they have this Inflation Reduction Act, and the EU, they start to have this investigation about subsidies of Chinese electricity. And today I'm going to more focus on this EU one. And this is the one EU started the investigation October last year. And with 3 samples, BRD and Geely and AIC from the Shanghai. These are the 3 companies with EU have looked at particularly. And then finally, and they released their report initially in June this year. And afterwards, there were several rounds of discussion from China side regarding they don't agree with something. And until beginning of October, the EU finally said they get the necessary support, and end of October, they finally released the numbers. So this is the red last column. This is the finally number they're going to impose on electric car from China, and it will be for 5 years. And basically, largest producer BRD will be 70%, and for other company which cooperate with EU during the investigation will be 20.7, and for other remaining one will be 35.3. And for the Tesla, because they have a special request and they have a special investigation in the end, will be 7.8% for their for the tariff. And so now let me give you a little bit background about these issues and let you put your perspective. Is usually when you have a trade investigation, always from a company themselves, they complain, then you start with the investigation. But for this one, without any complaint, EU initially these investigations. And also a little different, I said, is if you're on the European street, you don't see much electric car from China. But this time, they start very early. And as the US Trade Secretary, Commercial Secretary said, we are not wait too late until the real all the Chinese car full of road until the risk become very, very high. So this time they are really taken much earlier than other would be. And also within the EU, they also have some within the EU, they also have some debate. Why should do that? And because we really need a low price car from China. And then you see the EU commissioner said this kind of argument always there. But the point is the car industry so important to US, so important to EU, they cannot have this kind of, the unfair competitions, and we should do something. So that reason, clearly to see this industry is so crucial for the EUs, for EUs. This trade measure not only EU, although is EU officially implemented and already debate, but likely is already many countries. US go much far. It's the 100% tariff plus any car equipped with Chinese software and hardware cannot sue the United States. Basically, completely ban of Chinese car into the United States. Even from Mexico one is not allowed in now, based on the current regulations. Canada follows suit 100%. Turkey look like a friend of China, but their actually policy even more strict. At least pay $7,000 per car for the tariff. That's basically ban all the Chinese budget car into Turkey, and then you have a very strict ban regulation from the India, from the Brazil. Yeah, so it then, if China want to sell other countries, then meet a lot of other challenges like local contents, maybe market is too small. So that in the end, you will find the EU1 market probably still very attractive. And then you hear from the EU Commission said, okay, we are just want to levy the playing field, and even we levy the tariff like 21%, and the Chinese car still comfortable to sell on the EU market. And then you do study show from a US think tank, and you do find that even you impose a tariff 30%, a Chinese company still have the comfortable margins, and basically indicate the EU1 will not shut down Chinese car completely. When you are very angry with about the EU1, but actually the EU1 probably is still much better than the United States, because they still don't completely shut down Chinese cars. And meantime, the tariff is not set high enough, really not make Chinese car attractive. And also the study indicated that if you really want to make EU market attractive to Chinese, the tariff should be increased 40 to 50%. And for the BRD, which have the vertical integration, this tariff should be even higher. So that reason, currently for BRD, only 70%, plus the existing 10%, which is applied to other countries, only 27%. It's far, far less than 50 or 45% is set for BRD if you want to BRD out of the EU market. And then questions is what the EU doing? It really makes sense, and at least from EU point of view, because you not going to sell in ICE, a fossil fuel powered engine by 2035. In that reason, you do need the Chinese electric car, which are much more costly, and so readily. So from the EU side, it really needed. But on the other hand, the EU cannot take the laissez-faire system and approach that was did before for the PVs. And then because that one, then you find the EU, if you follow the previous strategy, EU domestic PV production will be declined by 70%, and EU produce the global market will be fall by 30%. That is study produced by European Central Bank. Yeah, so that reason, generally speaking, from EU point of view, why they do this, and because they just want to store the level playing field, but on the other hand, they're not going to stop the import from car from China completely. And but on the other hand, this is certainly really hurt China side. And the study from my German colleague and the Australia colleagues, they study if EU really impose this 21% provisional duty, then Chinese EU import from China will be will cut by 42%. And if EU reduce tariff for the electricity battery to 0%, that probably will really better for the welfare of EU, and plus still impose this tariff to China, and then Chinese, the import from China will be cut 20%. But anyhow, this is still big percentage cut. And on the China side, certainly they might be resourced to the WTO, but given increased number of countries which are against China, I would hardly to say this might be in the short time can solve the issues to the China advantage. Certainly, really speaking, we have to think about alternative, whether help China, and probably also EU may be also willing to compromise. So that is so-called price taking. It means you commit minimum price and sell to the EUs. And initially, EU don't agree with this one. Certainly, there are many individual company plus the Chinese Chamber of Commerce indeed offer that one. EU don't agree. But when EU finally get national support to implement the tariff, and because the largest economic German, very, very strong against it. And then EU started to say, oh, we might be think about, oh, let's discuss other alternatives. So that reason, this minimal price option also come table again. And after they made this final deal, and we do see there are still a lot of discussion, technical team between China and the EU and Beijing and Brussels. And they were reported that China offer minimal price 30,000 euros, but still not accepted by EU. I would say it's really, this is a very investigation. It is based on the perceived injury, not based on the materialized injury. That reason really depends on EU to see whether this price level reached the level EU think they eliminated the industry effect of the Chinese substitutions. And so this is that's the reason why the EU is very cautious about this minimum price, because before 10 years ago, they have this kind of agreement between EU and the PVs, and in the end, and what come out is all nowadays, and the PV market in EU, 90% are from China. So certainly this is a very bad experience for the EU. They were very angry about this one, and but also for the minimal price commitment, usually for homogeneous group, but for the PV. So that, but even for PV, and still how practical is very bad appearance. So it's because there are many channels for sale which will circumvent EU measures. But when you come to EV, so that is much more complex products and have many models, different configurations. So this kind of cross substitution will be even more. And then across many channels, a Chinese company have very different structures. One group have several hundred producers and sell the same channels. So this kind of cross substitution become even more severe. And that's the reason why EU will be very cautious when you come to minimal reactions. And given this very diverse issues regarding different vehicle models, configurations, certainly if you purely have one negotiation with the Chinese trade representative, might be not the way to go forward. Maybe it's better also take other considerations and from the individual manufacturers. So that was the reason EU are starting doing that. And on the logical speaking, this also makes sense, because if you look at the OPEC, it's always agree on, but in the end, the member country always break the commitment. Similar things, and for the Chinese Chamber of Commerce, yes, you are on behalf of all the companies, but the point, you don't have the legal authorities to penalize those who don't agree with the commitment. So that reason, bad appearance for PV and risk of circumvents and taking. So that was making you very cautious on this. And so this, from this angles, this is a very makes sense. So what I would expect, and the EU probably go this individual options. They for each companies models, they calculate the price, and then negotiate whether needed to the EU applications. And this probably can apply to larger EV manufacturers. And for smaller one, if China Chamber of Commerce, we should be able to agree on with the EU, and then also go the minimum. Otherwise, we will continue to go through this tariff. And with the EU going to impose this tariff, logically speaking, Chinese company will be trying to have presence in the EU and trying to avoid these competitions, trying to avoid to pay this tariff. But I'd like to emphasize here, Chinese EV company going abroad is very different from the Chinese resource company going abroad, because resource company basically is China local resources, also very capital intensive. So you produce more resources, and then bring more oil, gas on the market, good for world, good for China, doesn't hurt much Chinese employment, because basically it's capital intensive. And also differ from a Japanese car going abroad in the 1970s, 80s, because that time Japanese already have aging issues, hardly to find sufficient labor to support large productions. But for Chinese cases, for the kids and somewhere 18 to 24, China probably have 40% employment rate. So we have a huge employment issue there. So that reason, I strongly argue that exporting still much better than going abroad. So that reason, countries trying to make efforts, trying to keep good relationship with the trading partner. This is good for the electric car. It's also good for many other issues. Yeah? And here, I like to, anyhow, you're going to make investment abroad, and certainly, I guess, expecting it will go. But I like to raise a few issues for particular considerations. I certainly, it will be very difficult for overseas factory will replicate success story in China, because domestically, because you have a larger scale effect, push down the cost, able the car to be sold cheaply, the further promoting demand, then increasing scale and forming this kind of virtuous circles. But when you come to investment abroad, and a lot of this trade, environmental labor regulation, certainly all will affect landing of Chinese productions. That will certainly not that easy to form the scale of economics and also low price. So this one should be take care. And also, yes, and you want to build the company in the EU, for example, to avoid the tariff. And but it really depends on how going to you build there. And so that reason I would say the origin of the original requirement, the local content requirement, will become very tight. You could be that you build just there for assembling, so you import all the components from China. So I guess the EU might be going to tighten this rule to close this loophole. Similar things for the US and Mexico and Canada agreement. I guess they're going to, anyhow, they're going to renew by 2026. And I guess the Trump comes to office, we will be quickly going to look at this. And so this here, they also have the local content requirement, and also might be also you risk these loopholes. And another thing is when Chinese company make any kind of investment abroad, I would say is also you should, for example, if you make investment, build a factory in Mexico, you really first think about, oh, this is the profit, and then you do it. And if you, in the end, there are some trade agreement allow you to sell more to the United market, that is the bonus. But anyhow, your first in the reasoning to make investment in Mexico sounds. So this is a very good thing. Otherwise, if you start your investment, you already completely bet on exporting the US or something that could be in the end maybe go what you wanted. And that one also should be care. Another thing is a lot of investment in Europe, which are concentrated on few countries like Hungary. This is a country, you know, if you look at the EU budget, and Hungary is one of the three. They get huge money from EU budget, but they always challenging EU on many big issues. So I guess it probably may make EU member country are very irritated. It could be in the end they will be have the backlash against the Chinese companies because the Hungary behaviors, and also for the Turkey and the government also want to make them there because they want to benefit so-called the customer unions. But if you look at what the Turkey are doing, I would certainly hard to say that China will really can make a case there. So that reason also the open questions. Let me finally make a few points about this argument about, you know, it's one of the things related to overcapacity. I guess China have a huge overcapacity, largely is government policy. Restrict private investment go to the service, particular high value service. Then you end up all this capital into manufacturers, and particular capital intensive manufacturer produce a lot of the pollution. Meantime, also produce a lot of goods. Maybe very hard to find place to sell or to solve. That reason, this time is the electric vehicle. Could be something else. I guess is this one issue. And also China always say, okay, and we are produce something which is far less than what they need. But the point is the lack of global capacity does not really mean that contribute by yours. And for developing country, they don't have sufficient capacity. Also, will maybe not by yours, because this is kind of industry which have really strategic impact. So this kind of thing, I would say that either company, either government level, I would concern. On the EU tariff, I also like to emphasize that no matter how EU doing, certainly we will not dent Chinese expansion in the EU market. This is trend certainly will go on, because the huge cost advantage over the whole value chains may not necessarily really cheap in time to go producing the help of the EU develop their own EVs. So this is I'm very confident. But the point is from the EU side, and really what they do may have some effect on the scale, piece, and the model of Chinese vehicle expansions. So this really depends on all kind of EU policies, whether they can really increase their competitiveness, particularly some small cars, whether they're able to have joint venture and to build a car and so on. And finally, let me see, and whether the EU and China can compromise. I would say it's on EU side, and whether they will continue follow this tariff rule or whether they might be take on the price commitment. Really depends on the bargaining of the power force in the EU, because you have Germany very strong against it, and France are favorable. So it really depends on. And also, I said, any tariff, why was debate I not agree? Because this is not based on the real injury. It's based on the perceived injury, not based on material injuries. That reason, what do you mean that the minimum level come to the point you perceive eliminate your injury? So this is really big questions. Yeah, this is one also put a big mark. On the China side, and certainly how do you value the EU market, whether you're going to resources it, how do whether you think that is really workable, and also whether you like to treat this in low profile way or you want to overreact onto retaliate. Plus, US policies, plus you don't have much place to sell. So which one is better for your interest? This one also have to think about carefully. And that reason you might be instant you are doing very strong. Don't let other individual company negotiate with you whether you are willing to give green line for this kind of company and whether you want to suffer all have this 5-year time frame. And here, there's one point particularly interesting about the Trump election. And with the Trump into office, this certainly will affect, it can be either ways. Could be EU become tough, could be EU, China will compromise, lower expectation from each others, then maybe have the deal. That is also possible, yeah. And if there's no deal, so then I would say maybe the hybrid approach, which is a price commitment for some larger company, for the rest of the others, will be tariff. A final slide, which I actually speak over the last 2 years. Recently I see Trump also pick up this point. It is basically when the United States debate this internal reduction plan, a lot of the Republicans don't like it because they should not have the tariff, should not have a subsidy there. I would say you might be abolished. I would like to reduce the scale of subsidies. But in the meantime, welcome Chinese company to build the factory in the US, the high American workers, and then raise the tariff for the car produced in the United States from Mexico. You raise this kind of tariff and close that loophole, probably better for US. Then it will be you have the electric company industry in the US, and meantime you reduce your concerns. This was a point talked about 2 years ago, and I found last year and this year Trump also pick up this point. And but I'm not so sure. Although nowadays that is his point, but I'm not so sure going to take it when he really come to office. But anyhow, I think that this is so-called technology for market or market for technology, probably the best way for US doing, and that's what China doing during the 70s, 80s, 90s when China adopted new technologies. Okay, so this is something which I share with you about this very difficult question.
Thank you. We're coming towards the end. Lots of fascinating questions. The big questions of the year ahead, as renegotiate the Trump presidency. Lots of similarities with what happened with the growth of Japanese exports of cars to the world into the US and Europe during the 80s especially, leading to voluntary export restraint, which is where Japanese companies agreed to only export up to a certain limit, which meant they could raise their prices. And in a way, that's a similar result to the arrangement whereby you negotiate that the Chinese cars can be sold, but only at a certain higher price, which leaves more of the rents with the Chinese producers. But in the presentation, the question that kept coming into my mind, are Europe and America just making themselves uncompetitive so that China will become the dominant player in everywhere else in the world? And those numbers that you put up there about the number of cars in demand in the rest of the world suggest that that might not be so bad for China. So I'd like to put that question to you. Even if satisfactory arrangements aren't made with Europe and America, can the Chinese industry continue to expand and flourish through exports to the rest of the
world? Yes, I guess is because I'm here to talk about something which is probably to Chinese advantage, is to the issue which is Chinese more like to have. In that reason, usually I'm not a science study from China, because anyhow, if from China, probably they think it is unfair or maybe it's not objective. So that reason I particularly pick up a few study by EU and the United States to see how is the service and how is the advantage and how is the bad. Indeed, based on that study, and yes, China still have a very big margin for the company, even you have to face the current for the tariff. But I would say is anyhow is if you have such big economics and you still have some power to press issues, you should not completely accept what others offer to you, right? That reason why the few big companies like BYD and some brand China sold from Europe, but they actually produce in Europe. They want to have individual negotiate, but the Chinese Chamber of Commerce don't agree and issue statement against one, because they're trying to protect those smaller one, because this smaller one which is also have a huge employment rate. So that reason is inside China, although maybe internally or maybe intellectual discussion, we said the EU this action maybe not the bad in the sense we really need to concentrate on production for the few companies. And if your Chinese government doing very difficult, if I'm in a company in the Shanxi, why you shut me down, right? If I'm in Anhui, why you shut me down? But by the West external forces, this give me the reason by the market force, oh, you cannot compete, you go out. And that is concentrate on field, and that increase qualities, increase skill. Meantime, most important, also increase wage of workers. Otherwise, so far, no company can afford to cut wage because they are completely based on the price competition, price war. You end up the people don't really have the, kind of integrity. The wage is too low. So I guess is if that kind of thing can work out, and I would say that maybe. But anyhow, I would say here, as you point out, is this even with without any change, completely for this provision duty, completely exactly what you do, a Chinese company will be still able to produce a car and suit Europe. And I have no any doubt about this. Although maybe a little bit of scale, a little bit of piece, and to some extent, I think this is also better because then you can really improve your qualities. And it's electric cars, and if you so much come to EU market and without care, 2 or 3 years, if a medicine goes down, broken without proper repair, that could be have a huge negative effect. For that reason, sometimes a little bit slow down is also not so bad. Yeah.
Okay. Time for just 1 or 2 questions before a short coffee break.
really interesting. And it's one good question. So on one side, Chinese government heavily subsidized the EV industry, which pushed down the price pushed down the EV prices. On the other side, Europe was not happy about this the price, the low price of Chinese EV, and it's going to impose this tariff. It's highly likely the United States is going to do the same thing as well very soon. So this seems to me to really distorted situation. So if I don't miss any argument here, do you think that it makes more sense for China to remove this subsidy at all? Because from a macroeconomic perspective, it's subsidy cost. What effects?
Ross, I like to, because you raised question when he was presentations, and I like to combine your question with his one. You was when he was in presentation, you said China saving miners investment is much more than why is it bad if Chinese produce many things sold globally, and that was exactly seen in World War II and World War I or something. I would say is this kind of is why I would consider maybe is a early wave of globalizations, and this is very applied to the country which are in the more or less similar scale, similar size. In that reason, maybe China is very advantage in the EV, and we produce twice what Australia need. But in the meantime, Australia advantage something, you produce twice what the Chinese, end up is very balanced. But the point is the case is in China, at least from Western point of view, and maybe in realities like a PV, like EVs and all kind of things, for almost everything, you produce twice what China needs, or how to trying to find a market or so. And then what end up if I'm working in Holland for 11 years, and look at my Dutch and look at the Scandinavian country. Actually, people are very enjoy life. And then because yes, we're beginning, we are happy with the Chinese good, but in the end, your goods are in the market, we all close our factories, we are out of job. In the end, end up with something nothing for us. And then have the bad politician and pour this kind of feelings and tend to Chinese. I guess this is kind of thing why this kind of thing become more and more big, because this is the market also technology which is significantly to any countries, particularly one. But when you come to the subsidies, and yes, the Chinese, I would say, because I don't have time to look at the subsidies. Really, the subsidies depend on what do you mean subsidies, right? It is generally speaking, and people think about subsidies below the market borrowing rate, and then you get it, and right? That was your subsidies, and could be also is something government should be getting, but they give to you this kind of subsidies. So there's a lot of debate. I would say for the electrical cars, this kind of subsidies probably in the early days, and this is already more or less China already go over that stage. Nowadays, purely competition among the company themselves, and so that reason, is this kind of issues that become relatively irrelevant than those days, and that's why the Chinese government, and particularly, is a lot of even you have subsidies not from the central government, just like Professor Yang mentioned. Actually, many things in the local and province local government, they provide a lot of the land and resources in federal term, and they end up with a lot of debt and accumulated debt for local government. So that reason is also not in the central government point, and central government always said we don't have much debt. So that reason combined too, and I guess this issue is not particularly relevant nowadays than used to be.
Perhaps along those numbers, like Zhang had the subsidy for BYD, just a few percent of value in those early years.
4.3, yeah.
1.3, the $7,000 US per car under the IRA that's made in America is a subsidy in America at the moment. So if Zhongxiang is right, and I'm sure he was.
This is from a BRD report. Yeah. So for that one, 100% sure, but rest of them actually from Western studies. That one is from BRD report, which I granted.
Okay, well, we'll discount that a bit. And last question before I can then.
Professor Zhang, it's Brett Williams from Williams Trading. I'm interested in the fact that you're choosing between putting up with the countervailing duties or trying to negotiate some kind of price undertaking or even a quantitative limit. My question really is the value of the subsidies from the Chinese government going down? And do you anticipate that it will keep going down? And the reason I ask is because the maximum WTO consistent countervailing duty is the per unit value of the subsidy. And it seems like the number of EV units is going up. And if the total Chinese subsidy is going down, then the permissible countervailing duty rate is going to get smaller and smaller over time. So maybe you're better off just to put up with the countervailing duty and not do any special with the Europeans.
Is this presentation actually is I'm first to it, and actually all the PPT I particularly made for this one. This is the first time to it. I read the EU report for the imposing duty is about 270 pages. They have very detailed studies and by sampled company and very detailed about which subsidy come from which item. Indeed, if you look at them from my point of view, already speaking, I would say probably already a little bit over exact situation now, because certainly what they indicate there actually probably already go down or go less. But the point is why EU do it, because EU capable companies, when we start innovation, company like all this company, you have to put your argument or put your counter argument with the real evidence to us. But the Chinese government, Chinese company doesn't do it, except Tesla. So that's the reason you find Tesla finally have the lower rate. Partially understandable because they are foreign company and the structure is relatively simple, relatively get less subsidies. But anyhow, you will find each stage and Tesla give the exactly evidence which help EU team to lower the rate. But the China one, you didn't. You always argue against in principle why EU this one done not good, but doesn't help them to lower your rate. So I guess is that kind of things. If you really, because that one, Chinese said, oh, okay, because we cannot go through this subsidy routine because we need a lot of the evidence-based statement to you. Then we thought maybe go through some minimum price, maybe to their advantage, because they know what their cost in China, probably less than 20,000 euros is already enough for Chinese to cover all everything. And if we can sell much more than this one, and then commit on something, maybe at least can solve the current overcapacity issues, and then continue see what's going to happen. Yeah.
Now we can understand better the things in the headlines over the first few months of the Trump presidency. Really interesting presentation. Thank you, Mr. Zhang. And I haven't succeeded in catching up in a lost time, so I suggest we're back here and start talking at 4:15 after a very quick. And thank you. Thank you.